So people will rehome with us. So the person needing a new home for their animal, they'll rehome with us to prevent the animal from going into a shelter because they don't want that for their future. And then the adopter will adopt from us because they know the history of the animal. They can see all that and to prevent them from having a different future.
Welcome to the Pet Care Report podcast by Pet Summits. Here's your natural dog healthcare host, Alora McKinley.
Well, g'day guys. Thanks for joining me on another episode. I have a very insightful episode planned for you today. We're going to be chatting about home-to-home adoption as an alternative to shelters. And to do that, I would love to introduce you to our guest speaker, Donna. Donna is on a mission to prevent animals from going into shelters, pounds, and death row, and is succeeding. She is doing so by finding them loving homes before it's too late. Donna is responsible for the rescue and rehoming of tens of thousands of animals Australia-wide. Founder of Till the Cows Come Home, Donna is now focusing on her greatest venture for the animals, which is called Into Loving Homes. Thank you so much for joining me today, Donna.
Thank you for having me, Alora. I'm happy to be here and spread the message of home-to-home adoption.
Very important. Now, to kick things off, can you briefly tell us about some of the projects that you've been involved in the past and what made you start Loving Homes?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, I founded an organisation called Till the Cows Come Home, which is an incredibly important and efficient organisation for rehoming animals that were deemed waste on farms. So I built relationships with farmers across Australia to be able to find loving homes for those animals. So predominantly that was hens on egg farms as well as calves, male calves born onto dairy farms because they don't produce dairy and you don't need them for breeding because one bull will impregnate many hundreds, thousands of cows. So they were deemed waste. And because this podcast isn't about that, I won't go into the tragedy of it all and how dark it gets, but that's what I started about 7 years ago. And then while I was running I was the founder, the CEO, chair, director of Till the Cows Come Home. And while I was doing that and started in every role that there was before I had my role as a CEO, I was doing every role and I could see that a lot of people were wanting animals rehomed the same way that we were lovingly rehoming these farm animals. So I saw that there was this huge niche that we couldn't necessarily help because we had a board of director that I had to adhere to as well, a board of directors that all wanted us to really focus on farm animals. So I thought all the house animals, the domestic animals, are going to be missing out. And so I really wanted to gift the service to them. So I refined the service and made it especially for those animals. So today we can rehome at Into Loving Homes any species of animal. If they're healthy, adoptable, we can find loving homes for them. So I've helped assist into new homes, everything from snakes to camels, rabbits to horses, and of course, mostly cats and dogs.
That's amazing. And what's the main reason that you see dogs being sent to shelters?
So I believe that is from choosing a dog with needs that doesn't suit the person who's adopting them.
Yeah, a bit of lack of.
Absolutely. So often we'll see that someone's allergic to them. Someone didn't realize they had so much fur, and so the house is messy with fur, or someone got it usually too high energy. So a lot of dogs are so gorgeous when they're puppies that they'll go out and get these like free ones off farms or free ones off gum trees or wherever, or even buy them for massive amounts of money, but they're high energy dogs. So I find a lot of the successful adoptions outside of Into Loving Homes are because of the dogs being low needs and low energy. So they're not going to climb fences to go for a run or meet the neighbors or go visit other dogs or dig under the fence or anything like that, because their needs are getting met in a normal home or a normal yard.
And in your experience, have you noticed maybe an increase in the last few years? I think social media, sometimes portrays a breed as being so easygoing, but in real life, they're actually hard work.
Oh, super hard work. Adopting a dog, you're adding a family member for sure to the family with that energy level. Like you're inputting that much. You're splitting your finances to include them, your time, you're fitting in hopefully daily walks, training, feeding. Is a lot to do.
Well, a bit of a sacrifice, but of course, we choose to do it, and it's a great one that we make. So can you explain to us how home-to-home adoption works?
Yeah, absolutely. So the difference between what we do and what a general shelter does, or even a foster care system, is that our animals are adopted directly from the home they're in into the new home. So yes, this happens on Gumtree. Yes, this already happens on Facebook, but it doesn't happen with a professional person in between, making sure that the adoption is a beautiful match. And like I said, bad matches are the predominant reason for animals not lasting in homes, because they're the wrong fit for the home. So with home-to-home adoption, what happens is people will contact us through our Facebook page predominantly, or they can give us a call. So the Facebook page being Into Loving Homes. They'll jump on there and usually check out our reviews and make sure we're okay and legit, because we're such a unique service, because I've really reinvented animal rehoming through this service. It doesn't exist like this anywhere else at the moment. So they'll check out the reviews, they'll send us a message on Facebook, and from there they can answer all our questions and make sure their animal is a fit for our organisation to rehome them. We do, if we're low on budget, so often we'll try to raise funds to be able to support people to get the vet work done that's needed. So all of that vetting is done prior to listing them for adoption. All of our cats and dogs get vet checks before being listed for adoption, and we get a letter from the vet stating that yes, they're healthy, adoptable, no further work is going to be done. They don't need any special diet, or everything like that is going to be written in the letter, so that anyone who adopts gets the same or even more assurance of the health of the animal that they're adopting as you would in a shelter or foster care. So that's all there. So the vet care gets done. But if we don't have the budget for that, unfortunately, that's what our weakness is at the moment, that we can't pay for people's dogs to get desexed, cats to get desexed if we don't have the funding. So we're always trying to get that in so that we don't have to turn anyone away. But say, for example, we do have the funding, or the animal is already desexed, then they go in and get the health and temperament assessments, and then the vet will confirm what the rehoming family has told us about the animal. And then so we've got all of the rehoming person's history as well as the vet work, and then we can match them really effectively into a new loving home. From there, we'll put up an ad campaign. And one of the points of difference that sets us apart from how quickly we can find new homes for animals is because we pay Facebook for our ad campaigns. So we don't pay for marketing. We don't pay for trying to just reach the average person. We don't pay to try and get donations. We pay for the animals to be in front of the potential adopters. So we target their specific ad to go in front of those people in that local area to where they're adopted. So one of the values that I really love about Into Loving Homes as well is that yes, it's more empathetic. Yes, it's more kind because they're not going into a shelter, but it's also more environmentally sustainable and kind to the planet, which is very important to me. And it's why I started both of the organizations, was partly the animals needed it, but also to be aligned with the planet and what she needs.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a huge job for you guys when you get an animal, come into your care as such.
as such.
Yeah. What's the turnaround for if someone contacted you and needed to rehome to then you actually placing that animal in a new home?
That's a great question because I realized I touched on that and then didn't tell you. So at the moment, the average is 5 days. So as of today, at this point, the average for an animal to go to a new home, like from start to finish, from when they contact us, the vet work gets done, the ad goes live, all of that is 5 days. So we've had times of year, and when our budgets are really good, we can get that average down to even 1 day. And that's because we have their whole history. We're not guessing anything. We've got the adopters or potential adopters at that stage can go meet the animal and see if it's a fit. They're seeing them in their home, how they are. They're not seeing them in a cage where they don't know if they're toilet trained. They don't know how they're going to get along with other siblings, like humans in the family, let alone other pets in the family. Whereas in the home, we know, have they been around other cats or not? Have they been around other dogs or not? Have they been around farm animals or not? Are they terrible with like getting out of any fence under 10 foot? Which for most people is an impossible dog to keep. So all of those things we already know, which means that the adoptions are also a very high rate of success.
And those that come to you, what makes them choose this kind of rehoming method rather than the traditional shelter?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because they want to support animals staying out of shelters. Because they, like we, can see that animals don't have to anymore, now that we're here, go into shelters or even go into foster care to find a new home. So people will rehome with us. So the person needing a new home for their animal, they'll rehome with us to prevent the animal from going into a shelter because they don't want that for their future. And then the adopter will adopt from us because they know the history of the animal. They can see all that and to prevent them from having a different future. So in shelters right now, Australia-wide, they're all at capacity. They're all full. So they have a 6 to 18-month wait list, which for a lot of animals is a death sentence because the families can't hold on to them necessarily for 6 to 18 months. So imagine if you adopted a cat into your home and your newborn baby is so allergic that they're rashing all over and they've done 3 visits to the hospital. You don't have 6 months. You don't have 18 months. You have to do this today. So that's why I had to come up with a strategy that got adoptions to be happening today if we needed them. And so I can make them happen in 24 hours. They can, if they need to, they can put the cat or dog in the laundry, feed them, love them, do what they need to have them that little bit isolated for whatever reason. Often cats will be attacking another cat in the home, or the cats attacking the baby is a highly common one, unfortunately. Dogs, sibling aggression, 2 dogs going at each other, and then they're going to end up in the vet or with high vet bills. And yeah, so many reasons. We've got 2 dogs right now being rehomed because our family member has cancer, and we've had many of those. So these aren't bad people rehoming their pets because they're bad people. These are beautiful people in tragic circumstances.
And then now those dogs that you've sent out to a new home, how do you think they react emotionally and physically?
Comparative to shelters, you mean, or just in general?
Comparative to shelters.
Yeah, great question. So comparative to shelters, the shelters have an average of 77 days that animals are in the shelters if they've decided to put them up for adoption. 12% of dogs right now won't be put up for adoption. They'll be euthanized, healthy adoptable dogs in shelters. Cats is 20%. So we're talking 1 in 5 cats. If you take a litter of 5 cats in, 1 in 5 of them would be euthanized. That's the stat. So preventing that, you've got the 77 days in the shelter, which I think is tragic because I think we've been vocal about doing these ad campaigns for our animals since I founded almost 3 years ago. And I know a lot of organisations hear about it, and I think their funding should be going there instead of other places. Instead of building more shelters, put the funding into the ads to get them to the people, because adopters are out there. I've proven that the adopters are out there. So preventing that 77 days in a shelter and the trauma of being removed away from any normal loving care or home environment is so unnatural and unkind. And I sound like I'm bagging out. I realize I sound like I'm bagging out shelters, which I'm absolutely not. I think they have a place. So I hope that's not what's coming across. I think they definitely have a place. I think we shouldn't be dropping animals to shelters if they're healthy and adoptable today. I think if they need rehabilitation, they can go into a foster care or a shelter if the shelter offers that service. But I don't think we should be dropping the average animal, 99% of them, into shelters. So, and then they won't be overcrowded.
Yeah, the shelters are so overrun, and, you know, they're so overburdened with all these animals that they do have such long stays. What kind of effect does those long stays have on the animals?
Yeah. So they'll develop things like no longer toileting normally, no longer toileting outside because they're used to toileting where they are, and then it gets hosed away. So that deeply affects whether or not they're adoptable anymore, because we can't adopt an animal into our home and have them toileting everywhere. So you've got that, which is stressful to them in the first place, because a lot of them are toilet trained before they go into there. So imagine you've got a toilet where you are. Like, that's not even a human jail. This is worse. They have a toilet and the feces go away. These guys sit in it for however many hours every single day. So they have to do that, which goes against all their training and against all their natural instincts of what they would have learnt when they were puppies or kittens. So even just that tiny thing about toileting, there's also having toileting right next to their food and water, not hygienic, even though shelters are often good at moving it out as needed. But there's that, which is unhealthy. And then there's the trauma of the sound of the other animals next to them all the time. A lot of the animals that come through rehoming services or shelters have done so because they haven't gotten along with another animal, because a cat may want to live in an only cat home. But they go into a shelter and they've got cat after cat after cat after cat in rows. They can hear the cats, they can smell the cats. They will know in every instinct in their body, every cell in their body, they know this is not where they're safe or comfortable. So there's also separation anxiety, there's depression, there's like so many normal things that would happen to even humans.
I've had a foster dog here before, and it takes a long time for them to unpack all the trauma that they've been through. And so that's hard for them going forward.
Absolutely. So we say it's like 3 days just to decompress an animal into a new home. And then it's a few weeks. So even a few weeks to become their normal character and selves. And then it's a few months to be able to really be okay and comfortable and attach. So yes, it's different for every animal, but that's an idea of what it takes for them. So to go into a foster care, which is often not the only foster care, they might bounce from foster care to foster care, because foster cares often will have other animals that aren't suited to this animal, or they need a break, or it's overcrowded, so many reasons. So we just love that they can go directly to a new home. No bouncing around different homes, no waiting in unknown shelters, not knowing what on earth they did to deserve this or when they're going to get out.
And I know you touched on it briefly before, but what kind of challenges do you find that home-to-home adoption has?
For us, it's because we're a professional service that has the professional in between making it happen. So we have requirements, and we're a registered organisation. So we have requirements that we need to be done, such as the vet care. So the real struggle that I touched on before is that if we don't have the funding, then animals get sent away. And then what happens to them? So they didn't get a chance because their person didn't have $400, $500 to do desexing, or even $100 to do a consult. And if we don't have it. So we do cry outs every now and then to try and get people to help us in that process, because I think I would say we would 4 times our rehoming this year if we could do everyone's desexing who couldn't afford it, even just that one thing.
And what kind of things do you do to promote home-to-home adoption?
So to promote homes adoption, I would say the ads of the animals for adoption are a big one. That's when we see our social media increases, for example, which I haven't compared it here within Into Loving Homes to paying for a normal ad, because I like to see it go to those ad campaigns because I want to see the turnaround of them turning into adoptions. But I find them incredibly successful. So anyone I speak to in animal rehoming, I'm always like, you've got to boost the animal adoption ad, boost the animal adoption ad. I'm like, I'll show you how. I try and get everyone to do it because it's going to save the organizations money, for one, these charities and adoption services, and it'll get more animals out of shelters, more animals out of foster care, more animals into loving homes. And I think we should all have that same goal. And I think we do, but I think a lot of people don't believe the results are coming from that for whatever reason.
And with home-to-home adoptions, because obviously not all our listeners are from Australia. Australia is a huge country. Do you just do state to state, or can you go all over Australia?
So Into Loving Homes is an Australia-wide service. So I realised how important and doable that was when I was running Till the Cows Come Home. And at first with Till the Cows Come Home, I would have one cow who needed a new home, and we had very little following and everything. So I would drive my first cow. I drove 12 hours to get him to his new home, and it was the best home, and I'll never regret the drives. I must have done that 12-hour drive. I did many, many, many times for the first 12 months. And then many shorter ones, 3, 4, 5, 6 hour days of driving. But I would get all my best ideas for my organizations on the road. So, yeah.
Would you home an animal from a different state to another state?
Very rarely, unless the border is so close, like we have in New South Wales and Queensland. You can step across the border in minutes and you're in like one city here, one city there, but it's 2 states. So there we do it often. But for the rest of the country, what I strive to do is local adoptions for the planet, for the animal, for the adopter, for the rehomer. This way it's faster, it's safer, it's kinder. So how it will usually work is, because we're targeting the Facebook ad not to where I live on Tamborine Mountain, Queensland, and run the organisation, but to where that animal is who needs a new home. So that animal will usually get adopted if they're in a city blocks away, or in the same suburb or the next suburb. If it's out in the country, it'll be within 20, 30, 40 minutes drive. But we have incredible success with that, obviously.
That's a very amazing word.
Yeah. So almost always local adoptions. Every now and then, and I'm talking once in 2 years, an adopter will stand out so much that I'm not going to turn them away. So I'll make it the option of the rehomer to agree with me to be able to make this happen. I'll say, for example, we just had this beautiful dog, Monty, who was here on Tamborine Mountain. I knew him very well. He needed a new home, And I thought, oh, this is going to be such a hard dog to find a home for. And there's so much pressure. So it turns out we had various inquiries who were all really, really good, but in 24 hours, various inquiries. They're all very good. I've screened their social media pages. I've had chats with the potential adopter. I've seen photos of their yard and fencing and their past dogs that have passed away and the life they had. And we've talked about all these different kind of things. And so feeling like they're really great, but they're just not every box is ticked. For example, Monty was never seen with a cat. So one home had a cat, but they had everything else right. And it's just like, oh, it's not perfect though. And so when the inquiries were coming through, I'd run it by the Rehoming family. I'm like, I can do this right now because they're a beautiful family. They've had this breed of dog before, which is a very challenging breed and very different. And so I ran it all by them. They're like, no, not with a cat. I trust you. Keep going. And then we ended up getting, within 24 hours still, an inquiry in Adelaide, so Queensland, Adelaide, and they were just every box except location. Every box. They're on 2 acres. They've had that breed of dog before who passed away as a 12-year-old, I think it was, 12-year-old dog, and his best friend's now Lonely, who was another rescued dog, and it was just everything perfect. And they're like, we'll fly over there right now. Can he fly? And they were like coming that day. And so I went back to the Rehoming family. I'm like, oh, can he fly? I said, every box is ticked. You don't have to say yes to this because I told you the probability of it being a local adoption is so high. So don't have to say no, but look how good it is. And they were like, oh, it's everything. They were like me. It's everything except location. And they said, let's do it, but if they'll drive. So if they'll drive him back instead of going on the flight. So they flew here on that weekend, hired a motorhome, had 2 hours with the Rehoming family, like getting to know Monty, making sure they knew all his tricks, and saw him around the other dogs in the yard and what he was like and all of that, and then drove back to Adelaide together, the couple. It was a couple. They were both in it together. So if it's a situation like that where there's not a more suitable one presenting quickly here, we'll take it. It's just,
Oh, wow. Sounds like you have a beautiful family. Lucky Monty, he hit the jackpot.
he really did hit the jackpot. It's so good. So happy for him. And I love getting the updates. Like I check in on my adopters as well. So within 24 hours, and then within a few days, and then a few weeks, and then a few months, and then just annually. So I'm not too annoying. But it's really good feedback for us to be able to see what's working, what's not, what we could have done better potentially, or what systems could be better, or if it's working for a certain species, or if we need to tweak something. So we're always doing our best to improve and grow, especially because we've paved this way. So there isn't another professional in between doing it like this.
And because you put so much effort into matching up the dogs with the homes, do you find that you have a really good success rate?
Very good success rate. And if they don't work out, they'll usually come back through us as well for the rehoming again. So very high success rate, almost at 100%. So we're talking in 1,000 animals, which we went over that last year, I'm pretty sure. 2 rehoming that we know of, and we got to rehome them back through the service.
Wow, that's amazing. You do such a good job, Donna.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, what's one thing that you think our listeners can take away from this episode? If there's one thing that stands out, what should that be?
Yeah, let people know about home-to-home adoption, that it's here, that we don't need to be putting animals into shelters, that we don't need to be putting them into foster care unless it is needed, of which most are not. But if you have a healthy adoptable animal, so they can contact us through, ideally the Facebook page is your best spot. So you go on to Interloving Homes on Facebook. The banner is green and gold or green and yellow. You'll see that there, and it says Animals for Adoption, Interloving Homes. And there's a lot of businesses called Into Loving Something in the world. So just make sure it's the right one and then go on to message us. And it'll even say get started, and it'll give you the options of how you want to proceed. Are you rehoming or adopting? And it'll help you through there. And our humans, it's not all automated. Our humans absolutely jump in, and I oversee every single adoption that still happens today. So you're in my hands if you need any help or if you know somebody who needs help. Yeah, but if anyone also wants to get on the phone and have a call, they absolutely can. The number is 1300 577 302.
Lovely. We'll put links to that in the show notes so everyone can find it really easy.
I appreciate that a lot.
Well, thank you so much, Donna. I've really appreciated you coming on today and telling us about home-to-home adoptions.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for spreading the message.
That's all right. And thanks for joining me to all our listeners on another episode. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a review if you found this interview interesting. This helps us reach more pet owners who might benefit from this information. I will see you next time.
See you, everyone. Thanks so much for your time.